Hey everyone, I just wanted to hop on here and make a little video going over some of the things that I've been learning and connections that I've been making recently. A lot of you guys followed my health journey over the course of the summer with some of my eye issues that came up. And many of you know I'm a Akashic record reader. So the records started using language that I was kind of unfamiliar with. Like when I was going through some of the issues, they used the word miasm, and I'm like, okay, miasm. So that actually is one of the things that I had to start researching. And as allopathic medicine was failing me and not getting rid of my initial problem, I was kind of forced to seek out different resources to help assist me. I now no longer have the original problem thanks to discovering homeopathy, but it's crazy because I've made so many connections. So if you guys remember, I was going to start doing a series on this book, The Etheric Double, and I made the very first video, and then I was like, I don't know if I can teach this. Like, as I was making the video, it was like I felt like I wasn't speaking clearly, and I need to go back to the drawing board to read some of the books that he actually references. So I've actually spent the past few months reading other books that go into some of the phrases and terminology that's used in this book. So eventually I do think I'll be able to complete that video series. But this all connects because, in the etheric double, it talks a lot about vitality globules, the vital force. So as I was going through all of this health stuff and like researching what the word miasm meant that the records brought up, I was working with a homeopath. She actually recommended this book. And miasms are a big part of homeopathy as far as when we're working with chronic things that we've had a long time. We have to work our way back to figure out what was the original source of the problem, and that helps them find a remedy that matches you and is better suited for you as an individual. So miasms actually became really important because my issue with the eyes actually traced back to certain susceptibilities that I had naturally as far as allergies go, and just being a very sensitive being, like sensitive to everything, not just, like bacteria and allergens, but just a sensitive individual. And that goes all the way back to my original foundation as a person, right? And so this actually helped my homeopath find my remedy, and I've been taking it now every 2 weeks. I've been taking it, and then we check back in and see how I'm doing. And I cannot, I am actually shocked, and the process has been so magical. Like, things have been healing for me that I didn't actually even necessarily tell my homeopath about, because I just had assumed I would have these problems forever or whatever. So things that I have been struggling with since I was a very young girl are actually I'm starting to get relief from, and it's just going away, and so it's healing me at this deep level. And I'm like, okay, well, how is that, right? So all the way back to the etheric double, talking about the vital force. Well, what is homeopathy? And that's something that has taken me a minute to wrap my head around. How are these remedies working? Well, what they're really doing is they're triggering our own vital force to sort of activate, and our body starts to be able to do a lot of the work on its own. And that most of what we consider symptoms or disease is actually just a weakness in the vital force. So when we find a remedy that matches us in that deep way, then it actually encourages our own vital force to sort of strengthen, or I don't want to say awaken, because I feel like if the vital force is, not stimulated in some way, we're probably already dead. But to really sort of strengthen it and bring more vitality in. And so it's so interesting because with the etheric double, the whole framework of the book is, the ether, the vital force, how it's coming in. And so I even drew, some of these diagrams that's showing how it's like entering our, our sphere. So it's been a wild journey, and I would just love to share with you guys some of the stuff I'm learning as I'm learning it. And then I thought, oh, this would be good because it helps me integrate the lessons anyways. So I'm going to go over some of the things that I've learned recently. So I'm going to lightly go over what I've read in this first book that was recommended in my class for us. It's called Beyond Flat Earth Medicine by Dr. Dooley. So if you break down the word homeopathy, it actually translates to meaning similar suffering. And I'm going to read a little quote from this book that explains that a little bit. A substance can be used as a medicine when the symptoms the patient is experiencing are similar to the symptoms that a healthy individual would experience if they were taking the substance. So the name actually reflects the basic theory and mode of treatment. The main axiom used in homeopathy that we come back to over and over again is, above all, do no harm. And as Hahnemann, who was the person that sort of rediscovered homeopathy and brought it forward for us, was studying medicine, he was noticing some of these side effects were actually causing more harm in the practices that were being done at that time. Were actually causing harm, and that actually goes against the main medical axiom, which is, above all, do no harm. So Hahnemann didn't necessarily invent homeopathy. I don't know if anyone knows the original origins of it. It seems as if it is an ancient wisdom that has been rediscovered, and when we study mythology and things like that, we actually get some of the core truths and values that help us understand homeopathy that are kind of hidden within the myth. So if you go all the way back to ancient India, in the age where the Mahabharata book came from, you'll actually notice in some of these stories that they would use poisonous venoms to actually treat bites from poisonous animals, which, if you really think about that, is a very coming from the core aspect of homeopathy, which is like cures like. So similar, something that creates a similar reaction would actually be the thing that could cure the problem. Hahnemann was exposed to the law of similars while he was translating other books, and he started performing some of his first experiments on himself, taking daily doses of cinchona until he developed symptoms similar to malaria, which this particular substance treated. So this brings us to the concept of provings, and just as some people have characteristics that make them unique individuals in the world, different remedies actually have specific characteristics to them as well. And these characteristics help us match a remedy to a particular person or ailment that a person has, and are really big guiding points to helping match a remedy to a person. Another thing that I really love about homeopathy that I feel as though is missing from allopathic medicine is the holistic approach, that the whole being is important and the whole story is very much relevant to what that person is experiencing in this moment. So in the book it says, emotions are closely related to a person's glands and nerves. As these glands and nerves heal, the associated emotional qualities are strengthened and expressed in a more balanced way. So something that I've experienced personally while working with homeopathy is feeling less anxious and less nervous, and just like the whole performance thing was like really like nerve-wracking for me. Before a podcast, my heart rate would go up. I would get so scared, and fear is a big part of my remedy. And so as I've been working with some of my physical complaints, some of my emotional complaints that I just thought were like a part of who I was, I just thought I was an anxious individual. Well, that has actually been lifting for me as well. So in the book it says, a person's experience in their emotional and mental life cannot be separated from their physical complaints. It is the patient who is ill, and this illness is simply expressed or reflected in many ways. So another example of treating the whole person, and how the emotional and mental and spiritual life, because holistic actually comes from the word holy. So that spiritual aspect of us is also brought in to this form of medicine. So let's talk about the vital force. What is it? And this is a key component to the etheric double, which we'll get into later. The vital force is an invisible, immaterial, yet dynamic force which animates the physical body. It's called different things across different cultures. Some people call it chi or ki or prana, or just vital energy, right? Although it's called many different things, they're all referring to the same thing. And this vital principle is the core backbone of what makes homeopathy work. So I'm going to read a little quote from this book. And it says, the vital principle maintains all of the parts of the material body, both sensation and function, in a harmonious and coordinated way. The mind and will can then express higher purpose in life. Without this vital force, the material body is incapable of any sensation or function. In other words, it is dead. And I'll go on to read. In his book Organon of Medicine, Hahnemann discusses the basic theories and practice of homeopathy. He proposed that the essence of illness is a disorder in the vital force. Because of this disorder, people are susceptible to various diseases and afflictions. When the integrity of the vital force is restored, the whole organism recovers health and the disease is cured. Hahnemann felt that the effects of a single disorder in the vital force results in many signs and symptoms. By viewing the totality of the patient's sign and symptoms, a picture of the disturbance on the vital force can emerge, even though the vital force cannot be seen directly. He felt that homeopathic remedies are sufficiently subtle to directly correct morbid derangements in the vital force. And subtle being so important, because this is how homeopathy is able to do no harm. It's working in such a subtle way that it's not causing any like new issues, which is something that we get when we take a lot of the allopathic medicines, is now we have a whole list of side effects from the medicine. This unifying factor, the vital force, represents a whole which is synergistically greater than the sum of its parts. So, all of those notes came from the book Beyond Flat Earth Medicine by Dr. Dooley Lidge, is what we've been reading. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little breakdown. I was thinking I would continue to make little videos as I go of different things that I'm connecting and learning. So thank you for taking the time to watch this far. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Talk to you later.